Hi everyone. We're going to talk about Pythagorean theorem today, which is a formula we use for a right triangle. So if you notice, let's zoom in on the parts. We have A, B, and C are all three sides. So if you notice, I've highlighted the right angle and the letter C because they go together. Whoever is across from the right angle becomes your hypotenuse, your longest side. So C is called the hypotenuse. Okay, and the other two sides, A and B, are just the shorter sides. They're called the legs. Okay, so the Pythagorean theorem is used only with a right triangle. So a right triangle means that somewhere it has this right angle. Okay, our formula that we're using for right triangle is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so the first couple questions, I did the first one for you. So it's asking to prove if it's actually a right triangle. So when you look at my little triangle that I drew over here, the question is asking you, could the sides be 8, 15, and 17? And when you look at what I did, I plugged in the 8 for the A, the 15 for the B, and the 17 for the C, because remember, C is across from the right angle, so the biggest number is always C. So I plugged it in to see if the left-hand side equaled the right-hand side, and it did. Okay, so let's try it again. So I want to know if 5, 9, and 12, so if I drew myself a right triangle, 5, 9, and 12, could those be the sides of my right triangle? So I'm going to do 5 squared plus 9 squared and find out if that equals 12 squared. So 5 squared is 25, 9 squared is 81, and 12 squared is 144. So does 25 and 81 add up to 144? It does not. So this means that those cannot be the three sides of the right triangle. Okay, next one. It wants to know 7, 24, and 25. So it doesn't matter where 7 and 24 go, but 25 has to be C because it's the biggest. This is 49. 24 squared gives me 576, and this is 625. So did the two numbers on the left add up to 625? They do. So these three numbers are three sides of a right triangle. Okay, in number 4, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to plug them in, find out if a squared plus b squared actually equals c squared. Okay, 100 here. This is 196, and this is 324. Okay, so this equals 296, which doesn't equal 324. So these are not the sides of a right triangle. Okay, so that's just proving whether or not you have a right triangle. Okay, now the next part is whether or not we're going to find the missing side. Okay, so the first thing we got to figure out is, are we missing A, B, or C? So the first thing you should do is go to the triangle and find that right angle and draw a line across the triangle, because that right there is your letter C. So we don't know C, which means I have A and I have B. Now 8 and 7, it doesn't matter, so I'm going to make 7 my A and 8 my B. So I'm going to do 7 squared plus 8 squared equals, we don't know. So I'm going to type in 7 squared plus 8 squared into my calculator. It's going to give me 49 and 64. When I add those together, it's going to give me 113. Now, the last thing I need to do is get rid of this little 2 that's squared. So in order to do that, I do the opposite. I do the square root. So I want you to square root this number in your calculator. And you're going to type 113 and then push the square root button. And when you do that, it's going to give you 10.6. Okay, so 10.6 inches. I know this looks correct because it's bigger than both of the other two sides. Remember, C is the longest. Okay, next one. I color in my right angle and I go across my triangle. Again, I'm missing C. So I'll make this A and I'll make this B. 15 squared plus 18 squared equals something. 225 is 15 squared. 324. Oops. Okay, and when I add those together, I get 549. So again, my last step is just to get rid of the squared, because I don't want to know what C squared is. I want to know C. So square root is the opposite of square. The square root of 549 is 23.4, and this is feet. Okay, so we know this is also correct because it's bigger than 15 and 18. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Here's page 1. Let's go to page 2 and let's talk about what happens when we know letter C and we have to find something else. So for example, this one, I color in my right angle. I go across my triangle and I see that 11 is C. It's given to me. So I know that 11 squared has to go here. So now I can make this A and I can make this B. It doesn't matter, as long as I make sure that letter C is put where it's supposed to. Alright, so then A squared is going to be 3 squared. So 3 squared gives me 9. B squared is going to stay B squared. And 11 squared is 121. So I'm going to subtract this 9 to the other side. So that really is my only extra step. It's just putting the numbers back together. So this is going to say B squared equals, and I subtract 121, take away 9 is 112. And my last step is I take the square root of 112, and in my calculator it's going to give me 10.6. Okay, and I know this number looks correct because it's less than C, which is 11. Okay, going to the next one. We color in the right angle, go across the triangle. This is letter C, so 30 squared has to go in for C. This time let's make this A and let's make this B and we'll be missing A. So we're going to write A squared plus 24 squared. Okay, and then 24 squared is going to give me 576. Oops, sorry. And then 30 squared is going to give me 900. Okay, and my only extra step is to subtract. So A squared is going to come out to say 324. And this time, when I take the square root of this, I actually don't get a decimal. I get 18, which is okay. And I know it's right because it's less than 30. Okay? All right, last one. So we're going to color in my right angle, go across my triangle, and we're given C. So again, I'm going to be missing, I'll make this B, and I'll make 12A. A and B don't matter. 20 squared goes here. We're saying that A is 12 squared plus B squared. We don't know. This is 144. This is 400. So my only extra step is to subtract 144. So this is B squared equals, so in my calculator, 144 from 400 is 256. And again, when I take the square root, I get a nice answer. I get 16. Okay, and I know it's good because it's less than the 20. Now, the only other thing I want to talk to you about is exact value. So everything I just did, I rounded to the nearest tenth. The ones that were exact value were the 18 and the 16. Okay, so exact value means you would leave it a square root, like the square root of 19 comes out ugly. So you would leave it, that's exact value. Or if it became a square root and it, like the square root of 4 became 2, that's exact value. So you want to leave exact value means you leave the number underneath the square root. Okay, so this is what exact value would look like. All right, log into Delta Math and good luck.